Create is perfect now, because it has nuts in it. Create Garnished is an amazing add-on that does not just add a new and interesting way to have food, but adds a way to potentially replace beacons. Yes, these are more than just nuts. They're magic nuts. Garnished adds 7 nuts to the game: the cashew, the walnut, the almond, the pecan, the pistachio, the macadamia, and the peanut. And as you can see, each of them have tons of different variants, ranging from something you just plant to something that gives you potion effects. Now I have to imagine you're thinking, DJojo, how do I get these magic nuts? Well, you're going to want to find your way to a plains biome where you will find these nut growths, as you can see. Punch them and you will get a random nut, and they spawn in these little clusters, so you should be able to collect all 7 of them pretty quickly. But this isn't renewable. You can't just place the nuts into farmland. So pop your nut into the millstone, as watch as it magically turns into a crushed nut. You even get an advancement for it. And boom, you can place down your nut and it will grow. So this is how you find them and crush them and turn them into plants. Now for automation purposes, when you've grown your nut up, you will only get the regular nut. So you will have to cycle some of your nuts through to crush them, but you'll see you will get 2 of them each time. So you could effectively duplicate your nuts every single time, and eventually you'll have more nuts than you know what to do with. I'm going to say the word nut as often as I can in this video. Quick side note from editor DJojo here: the mechanical harvesters do replant nuts, so you won't need to do this once you have an automatic farm, but in the early game when you're farming manually and when you're just trying to build up enough nuts for your farm, you know, your nut farm, you'll need to make sure that you're crushing your nuts. There's also some other uses for your crushed nuts. Anyways, back to the nut video. Now on your path to magic nuts, you will need to garnish your nuts, and we can see here that you can either garnish your nut with a garnished compound or with liquid garnish, and liquid garnish is the most early game method. To create liquid garnish, you'll need to heat a blaze burner underneath a basin, throw in sugar, any seed, or a pumpkin, and at least 250 millibuckets of water, and voila! You have yourself 250 millibuckets of liquid garnish. From there, just pipe the garnished out into a spout and place your nut of choice on a depot beneath it. I am a cashew guy, and you'll see it will use all 250 millibuckets to garnish your nut. And if we pull up just a regular cashew, you can see, first of all, they're gross, right? They will cost you hunger. And when you garnish them, they're actually a pretty decent food source, especially for something that can be grown. Now, before we go further into the progression of the nuts, let's talk about this garnish compound and this solidified garnish block. Not only is this guy a really cool looking building block, but it's actually really effective in making more garnish. To make the solidified garnish block, you need a full bucket of liquid garnish and 2 wheat, and you can compact them into your solidified block of garnish. Now, why is this useful? It's actually because you can then take the solidified garnish block and run it through crushing wheels to create 5 to 8 garnished compound. And this little guy is super special. Take a little bit of water, 2 sugar or 2 sugar cane, and 1 garnish compound, and that will press into a block of solidified garnish, so you can begin duplicating your garnish without any need of heating once you have crushing wheels. It's way more efficient. Also, fun fact, these are gravity blocks, the garnish blocks, so that could be kind of a fun, like, sand trap, except it'd be sweet. Now that you've got all the garnish you could ever want in the world, the next step is taking cinder flour and deploying it onto your garnished nut. It gives it no stat boost, but it is required for the melted cinder flour step. There are 2 types of melted cinder flour. One type just makes it a better nut. As you can see, it gives it some extra stuff, but doesn't cost much. Just another some water and a heated blaze burner. It's these guys that we care about, the ones that give you effects. And yes, you saw that right. You can get haste, resistance, night vision, fire resistance. Peanuts give you several effects. There's speed and strength. So all of these guys gives you an amazing different effect. Now note, you have to superheat your blaze burner to get this because, you know, potion effects. Now, to create the magical nut, we're going to have to be a little clever here. Filter your basin with just about anything as you get this set up, before you even have one magical nut. Then throw in your water, sugar, a nugget of anything except for copper, throw in netherwort, and throw in a nut that has cinder flour on it. Not melted cinder flour, okay? There's a difference, right? You don't want a melted cinder flour one, you just want a regular cinder flour one. And then throw that in. Now you can delete the filter, and it should mix everything together into a special magical melted cinder flour nut. And each one gives you 1.5 minutes of the level 1 effect that shows up on its tooltip. And these are not terribly difficult to automate. So you could have infinite speed, you could have infinite strength, haste, resistance, night vision, fire resistance, and the peanut is kind of fun. It gives you slowness and invisibility. So if you want to be a sneaky little rogue-like character running around invisible, you can be with the power of peanuts. The reason you have to be so specific when creating your little basin recipe is because water and sugar and water and netherwort will mix together into something else, and you don't want that to happen. So that's making magic nuts, but there is more you can do. There are a few more items that are just really good for food. For instance, each nut has a sugared version, a chocolate version, and a honey version, and each one in that order is better. The sugared version give 3.5 hunger and 2.5 saturation. The chocolate give 3.5 hunger and 4.5 saturation, and then the honeyed give 4 hunger and 4.5 saturation. There's also nut mix, sugary nut mix, chocolatey nut mix, and honey nut mix, each one better than the last. Each is created by 2 of the relevant nut combined with any berry in the game. So 2 garnished nuts for nut mix, 2 sweetened nuts for sugary nut mix, 2 chocolatey nuts for chocolatey nut mix, and 2 honey nuts for honey nut mix. There are also alternate crafting recipes, like you could take regular nut mix and put honey on top of it. You could do the same thing with chocolate. With sugar, you can craft sugar with the nut mix, and of course with nut mix, you just make it with nuts. The regular nut mix is 3.5 hunger with 2.5 saturation. The sweetened is 4.5 hunger with 3.5 saturation. The chocolate is 4.5 hunger with 5.5 saturation. And the honeyed is 5 hunger with 7 saturation. Garnished also adds honey berries and chocolate berries as well, and the big kahuna, the garnished meal, the mega food, a combination of 2 garnished nuts, 1 honey nut, 1 chocolate nut, any berries in a garnished compound will net you 5.5 hunger and 8.5 saturation. Absolutely insane. You can combine any crushed nut, a single garnished compound, and 2 apples and water, and you will create apple cider. Apple cider is really cool because say you have some potion effects on you like strength, haste, resistance, and you're fighting something with withering. Well, apple cider clears only withering from you. Pretend like the withering lasted long enough for that to work, but it does. It's what it says on the tooltip. As you can see, cleanses only on withering. There's even a better version you can make by applying a flower, any flower, to it that has a 50% chance of giving you strength or a 50% chance of giving you slowness. And there you have Create Garnished, a truly amazing add-on that I think meshes well with a lot of mod packs and single-player experiences. It is created by Dakota Pride Modding, and the link will be included in the description to this add-on. Let me know what your favorite nut is. If you say peanuts, you're just wrong. Anything but cashews, you're wrong. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you give it a play, and happy nutting! I just want to use this time to say thank you so much to the members of this channel. They are helping this channel and me become closer and closer to becoming a full-time content creator. So if that's something you'd be interested in, subscribe and become a member.